The Spin-off Podcast Network.
Are you making the most of your KiwiSaver investment? Generate is an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of strong long-term performance. Making a smart decision now could add tens of thousands of dollars by the time you reach retirement. Book a no-obligation chat with a Generate KiwiSaver advisor today at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/get-advice. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
I'm Toby Manhire, and this is Juggernaut, the story of the Fourth Labour Government, a podcast in 6 parts.
Doesn't give my opponents much time to run up to an election, does it?
This nation is at risk.
What do you think you're up to now, you perverted little liar?
I could smell the uranium on it as you lean towards it.
There's a radical overhaul in the history of New Zealand's administration.
Juggernaut, the story of the Fourth Labour Government, made with the support of New Zealand On Air. Listen now on The Spin-off or wherever you get your podcasts.
Obviously, I'm very sad for Kiri. Kiri is an incredibly talented person who clearly has been battling some demons and has not won that battle.
Tēnā koutou katoa, this is Toby Manhire with a special episode of Gone by Lunchtime. That was Chris Hipkins, the Prime Minister, speaking this morning from the Beehive Theatrette, following news that many of us woke up to this morning that Kiri Allan, the Minister for Justice, had been charged with careless driving and with resisting arrest. She was involved in a car crash. She was the only person involved, it seems, in a car crash late on Sunday night, and was taken into police custody until 1 a.m. She was over the infringement notice level for alcohol, not over the higher limit that makes it a criminal offence, and there are no charges being laid there. But it also came, and that's what Hipkins is touching there at the end of a really complex and intense and what I think Hipkins called an period of extreme emotional distress. Anyone who follows politics has followed much of this. It seemed like the kind of dovetailing, perhaps, of both personal and political challenges. When Chris Hipkins was away in China, there were reports about Kiri Allan's interactions with staffers over the last few years. At the same time, she'd had a personal breakup and had taken some time off to look after herself on that front. The political implications doesn't feel like exactly the time to get into that too hard. I'm talking to you just after lunchtime on Monday, July 24, and by the time this podcast comes out into the world, or about the time it comes out in the world, Chris Hipkins will have given his post-cabinet press conference at which he will announce the reallocation of portfolios that she vacates, which are justice, regional development, as well as associate transport. The associate finance portfolio, in fact, she'd only been awarded very recently, appointed to when Michael Wood himself resigned over the shares he did not divest himself of in Auckland Airport. And that is, I think Allan makes it, if you count Kiri Allan, Meka Whaitiri, Stuart Nash and Michael Wood, that's too many ministers for any government to be losing, too many for one Prime Minister in 6 months. Certainly, Hipkins has indicated he won't look to bring new people into his ministry, which was the same thing he did with Wood. So there are going to be some people with some pretty weighty responsibilities, though, of course, we're very close to an election now, so their responsibilities will be limited. As far as Kiri Allan is concerned, I first met her in the 2017 campaign. She was a participant in our Candidates Diary series. I asked people from various parties to recommend the sort of emerging talent, the people who looked interesting and bright and might be able to write a few colourful words for the spin-off during the course of the campaign. Chloe Swarbrick was the Greens representative. Erica Stanford wrote for us from the National Party. New Zealand First didn't reply to my contact. And it was Kiri Allan, who was the Labour candidate in the Candidate Diaries series. And it was terrific. All of them were terrific. And they told the stories of the reasons that they were doing what they were doing, what they encountered along the way, including in Kiri Allan's case, just about vomiting when she had to do her first live TV appearance. Kiri was elected on the list, and she couldn't quite overcome the formidable Anne Tolley in East Coast. And in her maiden speech, she talked about her upbringing in a mixed family of 10. She left school, I think, at the age of 16, worked for KFC. She eventually became a lawyer and made her way into the Labour Party and into politics. And one of her mentors was Michael Cullen, who made a big impression on her. She was elected in the electorate in 2020. As everybody knows, she was appointed to cabinet almost immediately after that by Jacinda Ardern. She also confronted some really sort of daunting, incredible health challenges. She was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and she talked about it confronting mortality face up. That was just after, actually, she'd sort of surged into full public view as the Minister for Emergency Response when she was, you remember in March 2021, there was that tsunami threat down the east and there had to be evacuations, and she suddenly appeared, had that kind of immediately dashing, almost built a kind of cult following in the course of one day, I think. She really sort of put down a marker there as being someone who had quite a great deal of mana, I think. The illness was a big thing. She was doing tests during that period that she was responding to the tsunami, and she used that she detailed some of her journey there and on social media, but also to encourage women to get cervical smears, which she'd left for too long, as well as men to get a prod done, as she put it. It may just one day save your life, is what she said. We had a reunion of the Candidate Diaries in here at the Spin-Off in November last year, and it was really interesting. All three women spoke very candidly and insightfully about their experiences in politics and in Parliament. This is what Kiri Allan said, and she's sort of gesturing towards Chloe Swarbrick in this clip. This is what she said about the reality she encountered in Parliament.
This job, I think, brings you to. It really pushes you to your limit, spiritually, physically, mentally. It's a very uncomfortable environment. I think some people come in and feel automatically relatively comfortable. It's a domain and sphere people find comfort in. We and her have these conversations all the time. We feel out of place. We don't fit the mold. We're not from that place. It doesn't sound like us. There's nothing about that place that is familiar even 5 years on. Even as a minister, and you've got all these public, servants. Nothing about that place feels like it's at all ordinary or normal or common. So it is a challenge to be in that environment all the time. I sort of talk about the way-doer side of it. Spiritually, I just like my feet. I've constantly got to ground my feet in this job. Chloe's absolutely right. Every single day you chuck your boots on, you feel like it is an absolute privilege, and it is a heartbreaking privilege. I don't think that you can separate the two out.
In the middle of last year, in June 2022, Kiri Allan was promoted again by Jacinda Ardern to one of the really important roles in any cabinet, which is the Minister of Justice. And she, among other things, dealt with hate speech responses, some of the alcohol law stuff. When Jacinda Ardern resigned at the start of the year, her star had risen such that she was talked about alongside Michael Wood as a potential candidate, someone who might, that if it wasn't to be Chris Hipkins, who might go for the Labour leader and thereby Prime Minister. She was clear that that wasn't something that she contemplated, but it does speak to the levels to which she had ascended, that she was in that conversation at all. This year has been a much bumpier one for Kiri Allan. A series of unwelcome headlines. There was in April, she issued an apology over remarks she'd made at a farewell do for Marnie Dunlop, her then fiancé, at RNZ. Allan had criticised the culture around Māori journalists at the broadcaster. She said she urged them to, quote, urged RNZ to look at its culture. And she apologised, although she was very clear that she was not speaking in her capacity as a minister, but she acknowledged that it could be perceived as interference in RNZ. Then a few weeks later, there was the story that came from One News about Meng Foon having donated to her campaign in 2020. That was one of the reasons that was interesting. It was declared. There was no suggestion by anyone that it was anything illegal about it. But she had by then become Minister of Justice. The Race Relations Commissioner is appointed by the Minister of Justice. Meng Foon, as it happened, was the one under greater pressure over that. But it obviously wasn't a welcome headline for her. Then in June, we had those headlines which I talked about earlier through a series of staff pieces relating to her interactions with staff across a number of departments. There was quote-unquote claims of screaming and shouting and various other suggestions of intimidation and so on. Allan rejected those. Chris Hipkins, who was in China at the time, said he'd talked to her when he returned and reminded everyone that she was an incredibly competent and talented person. Then Kiri Allan went on leave for a period of time, after which Hipkins met up with her again, and he announced she would be coming back to Parliament last Monday. Kiri Allan apologised for anyone who had been upset by her interaction in the workplace, and it looked as though a line was being drawn under a bunch of stuff. Kiri Allan had also been through the breakup. There had been a lot of stuff going on. This was an idea that hopefully it was something of a fresh start. And, on Wednesday last week, I think it was Wednesday last week, there was this, it was a law and order themed week on the part of the government, and Kiri Allan was beside Chris Hipkins announcing new specific events for ram raids, some changes in terms of the way that 12 and 13-year-olds would be assessed. Now, whatever people thought about those announcements, there was certainly a lot of suggestion that they were rushed. Kiri Allan looked really composed. She looked like she was on top of her material. In a week when some of that material did seem a little expedited, she looked to be back to her best. As it turned out, she wasn't. And we don't know, and it's pointless to try and speculate at this point on what happened in the interim. But I do know that on Saturday morning she was posting from her kids' football game, and then on Sunday night what happened. And, we'll find out more, no doubt. I think Chris Hipkins is quite right when he says that it's indefensible, and it's obviously untenable to have a Minister of Justice, certainly probably any minister, who's facing charges that include careless driving, that include drinking over the level that is acceptable, the lower level albeit, and then driving, that has facing charges for resisting arrest to remain. She's going to go and she's gone home now and she's thinking about her political future, and who knows, there may be a way back for her. I suppose I just don't think at this point there's any value in any further speculation around that. I will say, and finish this with another clip from that candidate's diary, and this is by no means to suggest that it's linked to what happened, because we don't know. But I think it is worth reminding ourselves from time to time about the kind of immense pressures that MPs on all sides in the Parliament find themselves under. This is Kiri Allan talking about the kind of waves of anger, of vitriol that politicians have faced in the last year or so. she said that she could deal with it when it was online. She could even deal with it when it was just her, but when family were involved, that it became something else entirely.
There's so much vitriolic rubbish that goes on. The thing that does get me a little bit, though, is when I'm with my children and I'm threatened. Even by myself, I don't mind. I mean, I can manage that. But it's when I'm with my kids. And that upped the temperature over the past year to the extent people were following you. I would have to park in public places and literally wait and have 111 on your phone and those types of things. That stuff when you're by yourself is actually okay. But if you've got little kids in your car and they're seeing you or they see you scared, or not scared, but just like, right, that's not kind of something I think is acceptable. A lot, in my weekends I try to spend as much time as I can with my kids, usually doing worky stuff, but at least you're out. But I just remember this one engagement. I was at a Bunnings and, got the kids with the bloody sausages and they got tomato sauce over there and we're running through trying to get, nails or whatever it is that we're doing. And just literally being kind of cornered in by two people who were very aggrieved around mandates, but locking us in, myself, my partner, and our two kids at the end of a row in Bunnings, and having it's interesting. You just kind of have to, and that incident's not isolated. I think I just found that one a little bit egregious because I didn't quite know how to manage it with my babies. But I don't like that. I don't like that that's become the state of New Zealand. Like I said, the thing that I find most energising about why we all do this job is because we give a damn about our people. I'm a real grassroots politician. I love being on the ground. I love our people. It's where I get my energy from. But yeah, something's changed.
Kia ora, I'm Alex Casey, Senior Writer at The Spinoff. We wouldn't exist without the ongoing support of our generous members. If you're able to, you can make a donation at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, Podcast Manager at The Spinoff. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spinoff member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate. The Spinoff Podcast Network.